So before we actually begin planning what the player will do in our gameplay space, we're going to look for a moment at the idea of collaborating in game production with other disciplines, what the level designer will frequently do when they collaborate with these other disciplines. So we're going to look at first at some of the typical roles and responsibilities for each of these disciplines, including the level designer. One of their initial things they might do in development, depending on the game, is they might design the spaces for player experiences. These include level blockouts, something we did in the earlier courses in this series. They also design and implement player experiences, incorporating typically pre existing game systems and related gameplay actors. In this course in particular, we are not working with an entire team of developers, so we're going to be doing some of this stuff ourselves, but we're also going to be incorporating some stuff from some of the other courses on the Unreal Learning portal. Also, the level designer creates or modifies gameplay actors, some of the pre-existing systems that were mentioned earlier, and they might base their changes on the unique needs of their level design. Another role that's frequently collaborated with is the game designer. So the designer typically would be building the core game systems used throughout the game. They'd be designing them. They might be designing them in collaboration with programmers, but again, we're trying to show more the core groups that you might collaborate with here. So in other words, these core systems, they would include probably the pillars of your game. What is your game based on? Is if it's based on shooting zombies, they might be designing the gun mechanics used throughout the game. If your game involves cutting pizza, they might involve building the game systems that involve using the pizza wheel in the game, things like that. So they also might be designing things that are player focused, again, with the abilities. Simple abilities like movement, how fast does the player move, how fast do they turn. Abilities, special or normal, jumping, again, using a pizza wheel, could be like that. And interactions with things in the game, pressing buttons, pressing a button on the controller to interact with something in the environment, mechanical, a person, that kind of thing. This could be a separate role, but they also might be designing the behavior of AI characters in the game. Another very frequent role that I've experienced is the role of the technical level designer. Often, depending on the studio, their responsibilities can differ a little bit. At some stage, if the level designer ends up creating actors that they need to use in their level, the technical level designer might do a final pass on that actor and optimize it so that it's all sort of approved for a shipping quality game. But very frequently, they will actually be creating gameplay actors before in anticipation of what might be needed by level designers and what might be anticipated through the game design of the whole game. And they typically create the actors they're not really, sometimes they can be unique, but frequently they are creating actors that are encountered frequently and interacted with by the player using game systems. So these three roles, level designer, game designer, technical level designer, are frequently in constant contact, addressing the changing needs of the game based on iteration, based on changes in direction by people working at the director level. And one way that this might play out could go like this. A game designer would create a basic player interaction system for interacting with actors in the world. This could involve pressing a button. Once a button prompt shows up for the player when they get within X units of an actor in the world, and designing how that whole experience is. Then those interaction systems are incorporated by a technical level designer to create interactive actors, the actual actors placed in the world that frequently are used throughout gameplay, maybe common elements that need to be reused a lot. They could be exotic ones as well, but typical ones could include things like doors, keys, interaction, simple things like operating machinery, pressing buttons. These are all very common uses. And then once that's done, a level designer would be deciding where they want to place those interactive actors in the world as part of the player's experience in the level design. And then once that's done, iteration continues. The level designer might identify additional needs of their level design that require help from game systems or interactive actors. And so back and forth, this iteration goes between all these three disciplines. So I'm bringing this up here mainly because in this course, we aren't working with an entire team. We'll be creating some of this stuff ourselves. I will also be creating some of our stuff from some game design courses on the Unreal Learning portal. But it's good to know how this stuff will generally work and will differ a little bit from our experience during this course.